Hello, everybody, and welcome to the newest episode of the Theater Enthusiast podcast. As always, I have my hot priest candle lit. I'm drinking out of my hot priest mug. And my next guest, I've already told the grand dame greatness that she is in one of my top going theater experiences. And I just cannot believe she said yes to doing my podcast. Please welcome the grand dame queen, Miss Beth Leavel. There we go. Is it loud? I don't think it's loud enough for you. There it is.
I'm making my own applause. Yes, and if I know you can't see, but I'm doing jazz hands.
Jazz hands. Jazz. Yes, and I just cut it off. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for asking me.
Thank you for I didn't tell you this, but when I got the email from your agent that said she'd love to do it, I literally ended up on the floor crawling or like rolling over with like, holy crap, I can't believe she said yes. So
oh my gosh, just wait at the end of me. Oh God, I'm so disappointed. What? No,
never. Well, you know what it is? It's just because, like I mentioned, when we talk about top theater going experiences, and I mentioned mine, like I have been an admirer of yours since Drowsy Chaperone. And that's when I was in college and I was like still newer to knowing the musical theater world and all that stuff, because growing up, I wasn't as into it as like many other people were that I went to college with. Like I was a boy band person, like I was obsessed with O-Town and I knew Rent. And when I like went to college, that's when I became like super Broadway, more so nerd. So ever since Drowsy, thank you. But and before I forget, I already told Beth, but I don't have a show mug for her, but I have the Drowsy Chaperone monkey. I don't know if I showed you the back. It says, "Who's my little monkey?"
Monkey.
He's wearing a little shirt. I will say we will talk about it, but I sometimes forget how brilliant that show is until I listen to the cast recording.
Isn't it amazing?
It's like I do.
I think brilliant's a really very good choice of words.
Yeah. And my friends and I went to that 54 Below reunion concert you guys did a couple of years ago. And it's so funny because we both forgot we were going. And she's like, "Hey, we have this." I was like, "Oh, crap." And it was like one of the best nights. I think you got a standing ovation after Stumble Along, I think.
Oh, well, bless. And what's really interesting too is so many schools and colleges, theaters are doing the Drowsy Chaperone now, particularly this month. I guess school has started again. And I'm just amazed at how much that show touched people.
Yeah.
And how when they do the show, how it becomes just something, a really special theater experience for them. It's hard to explain. It's just one of those magical shows that the connection with the audience is just singular in that way. And I've been doing a lot of talking to the students all over the place about Drowsy Chaperone and, the show and Q&As. And it's just like, so it's come back in my life this past 2 months, and I'm reliving it all over again. And now you've got the little monkey. Yeah.
I feel like I should just like sit him here awkwardly on my computer and he'll just like appear.
So cute, so cute. I still have the opening night of Drowsy Chaperone. They, as opposed to flowers, they gave us each monkeys that have little, Velcro on their little paws. And so it's hanging up in my closet. So I say monkey every day. Good morning, monkey. Monkey.
Oh, my little monkey do. Sorry.
Yes, thank you.
I had somebody sing on the podcast. We should make it a thing now. Let's just sing randomly at points.
Why not? Never edit your singing, ever. If you feel a song coming on, if you need to express a lyric, have at it.
Oh, especially when I'm really tired and I'm working, that's when the songs come out, because that's when delirium hits. So, Beth, I always start with, where are you from?
I am from Raleigh, North Carolina.
Very nice. And what got you? Yeah, good night, everyone. Beth, thank you for coming on. Quickest podcast interview ever. So,
we got the highlights.
Yeah. What got you interested in theater and or performing?
I could truthfully tell you, I have no earthly idea. There was no theater around me, my parents, my family, no one. I didn't know anything about musical theater at all. I mean, I really don't know how I'm here and with this life and this career. but obviously something happened. I do remember I took 2 years of tap and ballet at Betty Kovacs School of Dance. And I wish I'd done that a little more, but I didn't. And I remember my parents, we never went to see theater. I mean, now there's so much more theater down there, so many more venues that the touring companies come through. But when I was growing up down there, you know, in the turn of the century, there was nothing. So I do remember maybe once every 6 months we would go see a movie. And my parents took me one Friday or Saturday night and we saw The Music Man with Robert Preston and Shirley MacLaine. Help me, Shirley Jones.
Yeah.
And I remember for the first time ever, when you're watching something, leaving my body, just kind of leaving the room and losing myself in this film and wondering how I could be Zanita and, you know, blink my eyes and be in a marching band uniform, the magic. And that, you know, that was a little light bulb that went off somewhere in my heart. But there was, what do you do with that? I don't know. But then my senior year, not until my senior year in high school, somebody said, why don't you audition for the school musical? He said, it's a great way to meet guys. 1001, 1002. And I did. And I got like the third lead at Brigadoon. And there was no turning back. I just remember, you know, when you're in high school, at least my high school, the rehearsals were in the band room, which was the size of a small city. But I remember the first day sitting around thinking, who are these people that are just like me that I don't know? And how can I stay here the rest of my life?
Yeah.
But, you know, my family was very practical. You're not going to be an actor. Well, how are you going to make money? I mean, you're a woman, you need to do more a traditional role, blah, blah, blah. So I went to college in North Carolina and I have a degree in social work counseling, which truthfully has come in very handy as an actor because it's all about listening. But I had a minor, right? I had a minor in theater, and you know, it's one of those things. If you don't think being a teacher is important, I had a teacher who was such a mentor to me. And honestly, her name is Linda Bamford. I wouldn't have done it without her pushing me and encouraging me and allowing me to make mistakes and casting me and not casting me. By the end of my senior year, I knew that's exactly what I wanted to do. I just didn't know what to do with that. And they're going, what? She said, why don't you move to New York? I'm like, I'm terrified of New York. I'd only been there like twice. And it was, you know, we would go up there on a bus trip, get there at 7 o'clock in the morning and land in Times Square, stay at the Edison Hotel or something. And it was terrifying, terrifyingly exciting. And we'd see all these shows. But so I decided, since I was too chicken to move to New York, and I didn't have the skills, I really didn't have the skills yet. Still learning skills, you know, perpetual student. So I went and I got a master's degree, an MFA, from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. And then after that, I had no excuse.
Yeah.
And then an apartment became available in Hell's Kitchen, 5th floor walk up, one of the scariest places I've ever been in my life. And I could care less because I was an actor almost in New York City. And I would go every Thursday before, you know, but this was before the internet. And I would get the Backstage magazine, the paper, at the little kiosk in front of Smiler's on 45th Street and 8th Avenue. And I would devour it. I would just devour it. And slowly but surely, my first job, the first big job I got was the national tour of 42nd Street. Yeah. And then I'm really, this is a long answer. And then
I'm listening very intently. I'm enjoying it. I'm sure the listeners are. I can hear you read the phone book. I'm here for it, Beth.
Well, the phone book's next.
Perfect. Maybe you could sing it. It'll be great.
I'll sing. Yeah, can you imagine?
Yeah.
And I was a national tour of 42nd Street. And like I said before, I wish I'd taken a little more time at Betty Kovacs School of Dance in Raleigh, because my audition was, I had an agent. I did a showcase. Yes, I did a showcase and there were agents there, and I got my agent from that showcase. And they got me this audition. They gave me the sides. I don't know if you guys know 42nd Street, but it's Anytime Annie, which, you know, there's a big tap thing in there. And I had tapped through some shows in college, but so I knew part of the vocabulary, but there was no skills anymore. So I thankfully, when I walked into the audition, because back in the day, children, auditions were held on the stage at the theater a lot of times. And I just remember, there was a line of us and it was my turn, and walking onto the majestic stage before Phantom was there. And there was a ghost light and a bunch of suits out in the audience that I could not really see. And fortunately, by then I hadn't learned to be afraid of, it was still fun. Now it's like, oh God, I'm terrified. Not really. So fortunately, they asked me to sing first. And I sang, I Got Rhythm. And I held this I note for a really long time. They had me read and they thought I was funny. So if I hadn't done those two things first, I don't know what would have happened. And then they asked me to tap dance, to do the tap routine. So what happens is the, Gower champion had passed, but his assistant, Karen, he said, she's going to come up and teach you this routine. And so I see this shadow coming from the bowels of the Majestic Theater. And, in my mind, there's a little recording. It's like, here comes Karen Baker. So she gets up there and she is just a phenomenal tap dancer. And she whips this step off and asks me to do it. And I was, can you slow down again? I couldn't do it. So what I did do, which is so funny now, for some reason, I don't know why, I had my Walkman with me. Google, if you don't know what that is. So I recorded her feet and the sounds, and I would go step, pull back, which I didn't know what it was, fill up, shuffle, and I would kind of repeat the sounds with my mouth. Weird. And then she said, because I did not do well. She said I had 5 days to improve. And they were calling me back. So my husband at the time was a much better tap dancer than I was. So we rented this scary little studio at the Harlequin where the floors are slanted. And I worked my butt off and I got it. And then, but it was so funny. Yeah. It was so funny because after I got it, she did an imitation of how bad I was.
Oh, goodness.
I was like, I feel great about myself right now. So, I'm still learning how to tap dance, but it's so because of that experience and because I went from 42nd Street to Crazy for You, people go, oh yeah, Beth's the dancer. I'm like, no, I'm not. I know how to fake it really well.
Yeah. And you make it.
Until you make it. And they just would have to, dumb it down for my skills. But yeah, I got good dance face. I got good character.
I cannot tap dance at all. I can't do a time step. I used to work at a dance studio with little kids, and I even had 5-year-olds trying to teach me how to do a time step, and it just failed miserably. I have 2 left feet when it comes to choreographed dancing. Dancing around my apartment is fine. Choreographed dancing, not great.
Yeah, I look at how quickly real dancers absorb that information in their bodies like that. And just for an example, when I was doing Prom down in Atlanta, they had this huge hip hop mega mix that the dance was doing at curtain call. I was just sitting there, I called Brooks, Angie, and Chris Sieber. We called ourselves the olds because everyone else was really young. And we were sitting in the corner with the olds going, whew, woo, I'm so glad we don't have to do this. And at the end of the day, Casey's like, can I see the olds for a minute, please? He said, we're going to learn that number. I was like, no. So after every rehearsal, every afternoon, we would go to our timeout rehearsal studio. And God bless her, Casey Hushin, is a fabulous director and was assisting this. We worked on that for 2 hours. And what it took an hour for the kids to learn, it took us 2 weeks, not 2 hours, 2 weeks every day after school. We would go learn it. Yeah. And so I hear what you're saying about choreography. My brain shuts down and I have to go, can you just tell me that? Can you come with me in the corner?
Well, I also think I'm not saying, I'm talking about myself in this moment. I think for me, it comes with age and just always being tired. Like I saw K-pop the other day and
Oh
I
my gosh.
loved it. And
Oh,
the dancing that they do in that show, I'm just like, my brain hurts from thinking
I
how they could do this. Like
don't
my
know how.
body's exhausted from watching them do it. They like all of them were incredible. But yeah, go see K-pop guys. I loved it. I really did.
Oh, I can't
I
wait.
think I didn't know what to expect going in because I don't really listen to K-pop, but definitely brought me back to my youth of listening to like Backstreet Boys and
Yeah,
NSYNC,
yeah, your boy bands.
Disney, and all of that stuff. So it's really interesting to me because you have a very long history with 42nd Street. I
Too.
feel.
I
Yeah,
did. You know, I
yeah,
had a job, when I was in the national tour for about
mhm,
7 months, I think. The
yeah,
role opened on Broadway and they asked me to come in. And at the time I was kind of like the breadwinner.
mhm,
Um, it's like, why am I going to leave a Broadway show unless another Broadway show comes up?
mhm,
But so I was with it about 4 years.
yeah.
And
Wow.
then during that 4 years, this is very odd, they took the principal cast of Broadway and married us to the bus and truck ensemble. We went to Expo in Vancouver and then flew us all to Japan, and they filmed it in Japan. And we were in Japan about 5 weeks, which was really cool. So there's this it's video out there of, it's not even, yeah, a video of our show. And it's so funny. I'd never performed in Japan before, and the audiences are very polite and very kind, which is code for they're very quiet until the end of the show, where they absolutely go show their appreciation. So
Yeah.
the video is very quiet.
Yeah. Well, that's funny you mentioned that because my old roommate works in international business and she's actually Japanese. So she works bringing shows over to Japan. And I said to her once, because I feel like she always works on West Side Story, Dreamgirls, and a chorus line. And she goes, yeah, because they love it over there. So I think that if it's like an easy show that they know, or it's like a dance heavy show, something like 42nd Street, the people of Japan will love it.
In the last night of the show, when we were there, a lot of the audience members lined up and we walked through them to our bus, and they just kept handing us gifts or just tokens of appreciation. It was one of the most beautiful experiences of my life. I really want to go back. Whoever's out there that can, someone please take me back to Japan and I'll sing
Or
show
maybe
tunes.
maybe just like as your honeymoon. I don't know. I'm plotting your life for you. Why not?
Thank you. Somebody has to.
Listen, I'm available to do that. I have a director's background. I can be like, just do this.
You have one of those brains.
I do. It's one of those things like what's that saying? Like those who can do for themselves do for others. Like I had somebody on the podcast and he was talking about doing Shakespeare. It's like just do it in Central Park. You don't have to pay for like go to Belvedere Castle and perform a scene for Romeo and Juliet. Like who's gonna stop you?
Nobody.
Yeah. So how did Crazy for You come about?
So after 42nd Street, I left 42nd Street to do a national tour via the Muni and some summer stops of Grease. I was Rizzo in Grease,
Yeah.
starring he was a very famous soap opera star at the time, Jack Wagner, who was playing Danny.
Mhm.
And so we did and it was coming to Broadway. And we finished the little summer stock part of it. It's very strange. No one really does that anymore.
Yeah.
They recast some of the roles,
Mhm.
and then we reopened in Washington, D.C. with the trajectory of coming to Broadway. And it got killed. Everybody hated it. So that didn't happen. So like womp womp. So I was unemployed for a while, and then my agent, then It's Crazy for You came up. Oh, and I got married during that period. No, I didn't. Yes, I did. Something like that. And during that period, I auditioned for Crazy for You. I auditioned 8 times for Crazy for You.
Mhm.
Um, the last time, and this sounds creepy, but it wasn't, there was just no more rehearsal spaces. I met Mike Ockrent in his hotel room. I auditioned for like 3 different parts. And this is so fast. I don't know if I've said this story before. During these 8 auditions, I was cast as Dolly in Hello, Dolly at North Carolina Theater. So I was actually going to go home for the first time to do Dolly.
Mhm.
But the final callback was during that show. So on my day off from Hello, Dolly, I flew to New York City for the callback. So I don't think I was as rested as I should have been. And I don't think I did very well at the audition. But I think out of pity, because I'd done so many auditions and there was something about me that they just wouldn't let go of. They created this role of Tess, which was a teeny tiny little role. And they just said, we'd like to hire you as Tess, and would you cover the role of Polly that Jodie Benson eventually ended up doing? And I said, yes. And again, it was, Stroman hires these phenomenal dancers and I had to tap again. But she made Tess and I'm doing air quotes, the dance captain, which is code for sometimes I was down front going a 5, 6, 7, 8, and I wouldn't have to like kick my leg and do all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But she always accommodated for the specificities of my dance skills.
Yeah.
There was
sorry, go ahead.
No, there was one time where we were in a line in the rehearsal room. And gosh, you would walk in and, there were people with kicking mining pans over their heads with their legs. And I just can't do that. And there was one time we were in a line doing something and she was just going, okay, pointing at the dancers going, just, you'd go split on 8, split on 6, split. And she got to me, she said, you don't split, do you? It's like, no, ma'am, I do not split. I can do a half split. I'm not sure I can get up. So I ended up doing this really like cheesy pose, but she kept accommodating for me. So that was that was my first. No, that was my first original show, which also comes with, we were nominated for a Tony Awards. It was the first time I was able to experience the Tonys, the first time ever for a cast album. That was an amazing time in my life.
Yeah, I feel like Susan Stroman would be the type of choreographer / director to accommodate actors and their special, like not special skills, but like what would work best for them.
Yeah, strengths, absolutely. Yeah, and my strengths were, belting the high whatever and kind of being funny and being the leader of the dancers.
Yeah. So after Crazy for You and all of that, what was next? Because I can't remember the timeline of, I promise I did my research, but I can't remember your timeline.
I can't either. Sometimes I'll have to ask. I'll go to my website sometimes and go, oh, right. And I'll come back. Yeah. I have a fabulous person that helps me with that.
Oh, you have a wonderful website too. I've got
Sean, it's Sean Wang. She's phenomenal. Thank you very much. It was Civil War. That was next, the Civil War.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? I kind of keep forgetting that with them. Sorry, what were you saying?
Cricket. Yeah, it's one of those. It's like Baby, It's You. I did them, but they just didn't really leave much of a mark.
Yeah. No, I keep forgetting Civil War was a musical on Broadway because I also
never cast album either. So there's no memory of it really, except unless you were there or you saw it. And it run that long on Broadway, but we started out at the Alley at Houston and then we went to New Haven. So we got a lot of weeks in there and they kept trying to figure out what exactly the tone of the piece should be. Yeah. And it changed dramatically from the Alley Theater in Houston to Broadway and just didn't run that long.
Yeah. It's Frank Wildhorn, right?
Frank Wildhorn. Yeah. Jerry Zach.
Yeah. He has great stuff, but it just like never lasts longer than people take, which is very important. Like I love Bonnie and Clyde, and yeah, Jekyll and Hyde was great. I saw the original cast for that. Not to like age myself or be like, but
who are you talking to?
No, I've been seeing shows, not to age myself, but for about like 30 years. So I've seen a lot of, and I've only known one other person in my age group who was lucky enough to see Julie Andrews and Victor Victoria.
Adam, my fiance was in Victor Victoria.
Yeah, I know. I have it on DVD. Because I Googled him really quickly this morning and I was like, oh my God, he was in that. I have it signed by Greg Jabara, the DVD. Yeah.
Very cool. I'm looking at the Victoria poster right now in my office.
Yeah, I love Victor Victoria. I grew up watching the movie, like the musical. You hear me? The musical, just
me. One of the interesting things about Civil War was at my audition, no one had any idea that I was really just the musical comedy gal, because the role I played and was cast in the Civil War was on Mrs. Bixby. She sang a song called Five Boys, and it's based on a true story that this woman, who was a Northerner, being a Southern girl, lost all five of her sons in the Civil War. And, you know, it was one of those numbers where I had to cry, and, you know, there wasn't a laugh to be had. And I remember Frank going, I hear you're like funny. I'm like, yeah, not in this show, but
yeah.
So I was glad to be able to do something out of my normal comfort zone.
Yeah. Well, that's what acting is. Sometimes you have to go opposite of what you truly are. So let's jump a little bit ahead. Let's talk about the creation of Beatrice Stockwell, aka the title character of the Drowsy Chaperone. How did that show come into your life? And I honestly, I can spend like the next however long just talking about the show.
It's one of the biggest blessings in my life, I'll tell you that right now. I knew Casey Nicolau was in the ensemble of Crazy for You with me.
Yeah.
It's a small world. And he had done Spam-A-Lot, but this was his first big directing breakthrough show. And the Drowsy Chaperone, it's the genesis of it was done in Canada with these fabulous people in a theater up there in Toronto. And it was done initially from the very beginning as a wedding gift.
Yeah.
Bob Martin and Don and Lisa and Greg all wrote it as a gift, but it was this amazing little show. It just got word out that people going, you know, you really need to explore this, blah, blah, blah. Cut to, they did a production up, I can't remember the name of the theater in Toronto, I'm so sorry. But some American producers went up there, i.e. Kevin McCullum and some other people. And from that, they came down and did, I think it was a nymph, maybe a nymph. Don't really know the difference right now. But it's one of those where you have like an hour, you're timed to show part of your show, to present part of your show. And apparently at the end, Danny was doing it, Georgia Engel was doing it, Bob Martin was doing it. So they've been with it for a really long time. But at the end, when the timer went off, something like this, I may be fantasizing this scenario, but I was told that the audience insisted it continue. So they finished it. And then the rest is history. Then they got the backing to go to the Amundsen Theater in California. So once they got that, and once they knew it was going to the Amundsen with trajectory of coming to Broadway, hopefully, depending on how it landed in LA, my agent calls and says, I have an audition. And it was like, oh my gosh, it's Casey. That's fantastic. And I knew no one else. Yeah. And they sent me the script to read. And it was one of those very, you know, when you're reading a script, I don't like, ha ha ha. I'm really just really studying. It's like, what is my part? When blah, 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 blah. And I just remember sitting in the chair, howling at how funny it was. What a brilliant script it was. Something I'd never read, seen. The structure of it was just so singular and unique and funny. And then it had this heart at the end of it that just surprises you so much. So I went in and, you know, I don't even think Stumble was written then, or if it was, it's just in the back of someone's mind. They really didn't know who this character of Beatrice Stockwell was. Yeah. Lisa Lambert had done it, who's the lyricist, had done it in a lot of the readings and stuff. And I think they were trying to find someone to tell them that, to inform them that. Yeah. So I went in and I sang 100 Easy Ways to Lose a Man because I had learned it and it's kind of funny. And maybe they could see something in me because the character, I like to tell people the character really wasn't on the page. It wasn't like Gypsy. You had her moments. A lot of them are not verbal. It's a behavioral or misbehaving or whatever. And a lot of it is they just didn't know yet. So I auditioned, I read the sides, and there wasn't a lot on the sides. Again, it was a lot of it was just behavioral acting that it's hard to do by yourself in an audition. They gave me a callback, but I don't think I did very well. And at the callback, I don't think I did very well either, but I did the best I could. And I got a call, which this never happens, but because Casey knew me, he called me and said, I'm so sorry you didn't get it. And I said, I'm not the one. I don't think I'm the one to bring this person to life. I'm not the one to bring her off the page. I said, maybe you need someone older. I mean, this was what, 15 years ago or something? I don't even remember. I was a mere child. And so I know that they went to Los Angeles and looked at TV stars, and they auditioned Eartha Kitt and Joan Van Ark and who played Tina Louise, just that kind of ilk, those beautiful dynasty, Knots Landing kind of genre, and Eartha Kitt. But nothing really, that wasn't the answer. So they came back to New York, kept auditioning, not with me, this was months went by. And I think they offered it to some people and it just didn't work out. The role wasn't quote unquote good enough yet, because it really hadn't been born yet.
Yeah.
So this was end of November. I get a call from my agents going, I have a job offer for you. I'm like, an offer? That means, and this was a really bad time. It was like, oh, I'm going to have to work at Macy's or something. And I said, I'll take it. I don't care what it is. And he said, it's to play the Drowsy Chaperone in the Drowsy Chaperone. And I went, what? I said, no, I didn't get that part. So I had them call the casting people back. And I said, I'll just wait. So in 30 seconds, he calls me back. He goes, yeah, they're offering you the role. You leave in 3 weeks for a 3-month out-of-town tryout at the Ahmanson Theater in Los Angeles. So by then I had 2 kids. I'm like, children, Mom is going to LA for Christmas. So once I got to Los Angeles, pretty much everyone had done the show in some way, shape, or form, but me in the role that they didn't know what it was yet. So it was a lot of throwing everything you had up against the wall and seeing what stuck and what actually served the story. And I remember, and good for Casey, we would spend from 10 to 12 o'clock every single day, firstly looking at films of that era, just so we would all tonally be on the same page. So it would be truthful yet heightened storytelling. Because if we did a wink or, it would have ruined the tenderness and the authenticity of the comedy, in my opinion. And then after we would watch the movies, we started doing, sorry if you guys have heard this story, and because you're going to hear it again, we would do improvs, which I remember Casey going, we're going to do some theater games, and just biggest eye rolls, like, yay, theater games, oh God, I hate theater games. But we did this one game, which a lot of the kids are doing now, hot seat. And we did it for like a week. Plus we had to write a bio of ourselves, which mine was totally terrible because I didn't know her. So I was like, just made up crap. But one of the last times for the hot seat, you have a stool and you're kind of over stage right. And all of the cast and creatives and everyone would sit behind the table. And it would be your turn to come on and sit in the hot seat. I'm using air quotes again. And they would fire off questions to you and you would have to answer in character. And that's one way to learn something about yourself, answering and see what feels truthful. So we did that for a while. And one of the very last times we did that, Casey, for some reasons, when it's my turn to come sit in the hot seat, said, ladies and gentlemen, Dame Beatrice Stockwell. Now he had never said Dame before. So that, right there kind of affects you. And I walked to heading to my stool, and all the cast and creatives stand up and start going, bravo. Like I was this huge, grand dame of the theater, legendary. And I just remember saying, oh, stop it. No, stop. And I bowed all the way down to the floor and I went, there she is.
Yeah.
And I knew where to start there. This fabulous narcissistic queen diva who you love her. And she is just obnoxiously self-centered, but it's funny. So you love every time she comes out. And then with that, I realized that, I need to stand in front of Sutton because she's taking my attention away from Beatrice. And it just grew and grew to pulling out a screen in front of her so I could just have center stage all the time. You know, Beatrice always broke the fourth wall because she was there, because of course everyone was there just to see me. Bless their little theater loving hearts. And it was just from then on, we just explored it, and it grew. And then Stumble came along, and then we learned how to take it up and hold the note, because that's what she would do, because that's what Beatrice fans would want her to do. Then the line, she sang a rousing anthem in every show she ever did, whether it was good or not, whatever that line is. It's like, and it really came together. And then, so I felt like I have my DNA with the creatives all over this fabulous woman, this fabulous Beatrice Stockwell. And then to win a Tony Award for it was like, oh my gosh. Wow. Thank you.
What was Tony night like for you? Do you remember?
Not much. It's kind of a blur. There's highlights. I remember when your show is nominated, and you're nominated, the Drowsy Chaperone was doing a performance. So it's a Sunday, and I was living in New Jersey at the time. I had to get up at 5 o'clock to get to the theater, because our call time for camera rehearsal at Radio City was 7 a.m. So full beat, full everything. We get on a bus, all in costume. I was thinking that must look really funny, but it's like, it's Midtown. No one cares. It's like there's a bunch of people going. So we get there and we do the rehearsal twice. Then we go back to the theater. I tried to take a nap, and someone says to me, do you have a speech in case you win? I'm like, no, I'm not gonna win. That's so conceited to like write a speech. The entire nap, I'm going, shitballs. What if? And so I'm like constructing this silly, just trying to, so what, like if I do win, what, you can't just get up there and go, so I tried to just put some sentences together, and you never think you're gonna win, and then they called my name, and the rest is kind of a blur. Because after you win, you're shuffled off to the press rooms, and you just sit there and go from one outlet to another talking about your win and all that kind of stuff. And I got home about 4 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And I remember the next day not being able to speak. I was so tired. My husband at the time, John, and our 2 kids went to, I don't know, like Charlie Brown's or something, and just to get comfort food. I just remember laying my head on John and not being able to speak. He's like, just ignore Mom. What do you want? Chicken. I just was so fantastically full and exhausted.
Yeah.
And they also give you, I don't know if they do it now, when you win, they give you a stunt Tony, so you can have something to hold for the photo opportunities. But I was able to take it back to the theater on Tuesday, my stunt Tony. So we passed it around, and everybody, everybody has Christmas pictures holding the stunt Tony. And then one day it comes in I call it a Tony coffin. It's a little black box, open it up, and there's your real Tony that was delivered to the theater. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Here it is. I used it the other day as a Zoom for some of the kids doing Drowsy. You can't see it, but I'm spinning it right now. I'm spinning.
Yeah. Thank you for showing your Tony and spinning it.
Thank you. Spinning the Tony 101.
Yeah. Do you sometimes just like sit in your apartment when you're bored and spin your Tony? Just joking.
Can you imagine? When I start doing that, I need for you to come and get me.
Well, no, I did see that during the pandemic, you did get a cat, and you have a photo with him like eating your Tony or something. Malcolm or something, right?
I don't remember that, but I am sure I do. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I think it's on your website, because you talked about your cat, and then there was the link to the Broadway world, and
I need to go. Thank you, Sean. I need to go look at my website.
Yeah. No, again, it's a really great website.
She's so great. She's so terrific.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that picture. I'm going to go when we stop talking. I'm going to go right now and check it out.
Like black and white. It's great. It's a nice little photo shoot you guys did.
Awesome.
Yeah. So once Drowsy is over, you have the Tony, you're still the Grand Dame. I think you are. What comes next for you?
it was life-changing, the Tony Award. And that role was, you know, people loved her, and they're going, who's Beth Leavel? I was like, oh, that's my 6th Broadway show. But I one of the things that was so satisfying about winning the Tony was how many people said, I won it for them. You know, I'm a worker bee. I've just been putting in my time and working, and to win for all of us that have put in the work and just been waiting patiently and doing our jobs. And to get that was very satisfying. So after that, I just started, well, one thing that happens, like all of a sudden everybody wants me to audition for TV. Well, you know, I didn't really get anything, well, a couple of, but nothing substantial. Like I stayed in the theater world, which I'm very happy. The next thing that actually happened, I believe, was I took over for Andrea Martin in Young Frankenstein. And I did that for about a year, maybe not that long. And then another Casey Nicholaw show came up called Minsky's. And again, we were going back to Los Angeles to do
also Bob Martin.
Bob Martin.
Yep.
And that show had been around a very long time. So this was a lot of the Drowsy people doing it. With Charles Strauss's music and Susan Birkenhead's lyric. And it just, you know, it didn't transfer, even though there's so many great songs. And some of it was so sensational. It just, you know, it happens. So after that, I believe, was Mamma Mia.
Let's talk about Mamma Mia. I have a history with Mamma Mia as well. I used to do merch at Broadway shows, and my main show that I worked was Mamma Mia. So I was after your time, but I do remember the Broadway.com videos that you made about you going to Mamma Mia, you picking your dressing room, you saying that when you tried on your costume, they said it wasn't tight enough. So those are like the 2 things I remember from your video. I think you ended up in the Barbara Streisand video, right?
I did. I think
Streisand dressing room
was cut in half maybe, and I was in part of the other part, one of her. I mean, it's just unfathomable to me. It's like, Barbara's DNA is in here. But yeah, it was interesting joining a show that had been running for 8 years when I did it, maybe something like that. And to do it was fascinating. It's the first time I ever felt like a rock star.
It's a really fun. I went on a cruise a few months ago, and they showed Mamma Mia on the cruise, and I
love that musical, love the movie, love it all.
I didn't love the movie, but I do enjoy the stage production.
I have never seen the movie, but I go to Macy's and I hear, I was cheated by you. Like, I can't get away from it, can I? No, ABBA is everywhere. During my put-in, you guys know what a put-in is, you know, when you come and it's been a show, a cast have been doing it, but you guys know what it is. Anyway, it was during my put-in. I had just come out and finished, what's her first number? I think it's Money, Money, Money. Da, 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 da. Did all that, closed the door, exited, and I hear on the God mic, hold please, hold. I was like, oh man, I've already had to stop the show. I did something so bad. And what happened was one of the original members of ABBA came to the theater. I believe it was Bjorn. And they stopped the rehearsal so he could come down the aisle and say hello to me and the cast. I just remember thinking, are you kidding me? At my put-in, and one of the people from ABBA is here. So that was really cool. He was doing some other gig in the city. He stayed around for a while. I'm like, please don't let him watch my put-in, please. My nerves couldn't take it. And he left and it continued, but it was one of the things I remember most about Mamma Mia was how close the cast was, but it was a rake stage. I mean, a really rake stage. And it did a number on a lot of our bodies. And it did a number on, you're singing, I'm jutting my chin out. You're singing in a position you're not aligned. So belting barefoot on a rake stage. One night I just remember the winner takes it. And I went, and I thought, well, that's it. I have just ruined my voice. I'll never work again. It was, I'm not exaggerating. It was so bad. Stage managers were waiting for me in the wings. And they went, what happened? I was like, I have no idea. But it was a quick change. I had to keep going to the curtain call. And by curtain call, the voice was back again, but something popped, some vertebrae went out in my neck. Good times. Wow. So I just remember never, ever having to worry about my voice. And during Mamma Mia, really having to really do warm-ups and more physical warm-ups and having to go to chiropractors and woo.
Yeah. And Mamma Mia is, it's not like dance heavy, but it, there's a good amount of dancing in it too. So I can only imagine what it's like for the actual like dancers of the show. And imagine, excuse me, I'm so verklempt I'm talking to you. But walking around in those platforms on a rake stage too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And barefoot with it's no support at all. I spent a lot of time barefoot for some reason.
I think when
Donna Dear Diary, I'm glad I did. Here's another thing about Mamma Mia.
Yes.
My mother and her garden club would come up because Beth is doing Mamma Mia. And they love Mamma Mia. Mm-hmm. So between Drowsy Chaperone and I think the highlight of my career for my mother was me doing Mamma Mia.
Yeah.
So thank you, Mamma Mia, for letting her have that before she passed.
That's great. I mean, a lot of wonderful, did Mamma Mia, but that's great that she got to see you a bunch of times in it.
Did.
Yeah.
And
so
she people up. She would never do that. It's like, yep, we're gonna see Mamma Mia again. Yeah, Beth doing Mamma Mia.
I think when they changed theaters, I didn't work at Mamma Mia as much, but there was a girl who, like, I remember meeting her and she was like very specific about like where she would sit, when she would go to the bathroom during the show. So she was like a huge Mamma Mia enthusiast. And I think there was like one time she was wearing a shirt with like the cast members' last names, or like Donna and Sophie, and like one of those shirts. So you have people who are like that with shows.
Absolutely, but not as much as Mamma Mia more than anyone. And I would look at the curtain call and people would all be in pink boas. I mean, they would come in costumes.
Oh, we sold feather boas at the theater.
Yeah.
I found many feathers in places that should not have feathers.
Yes, you did. And a lot of when I had joined it, I'm not sure necessarily English was the first language of everyone that came to the show. So they would, the things like, let's go with the scenes. By the time they got to the songs, it was a rock concert. It really was. And they were singing with us and doing the choreography. And that's not something I've had an opportunity many times to experience in a show. So that was really fun.
I learned how to say 25 in Spanish because of Mamma Mia.
Why?
People would say, how much is it? I would say, when talking about the CD, I'd say 25. They go, oh, 25. So yeah. And then the merch people would do the mega mix in the back of the theater. Yeah. So that was the thing that we did. So how did Baby It's You come about?
Oh, so after Mamma Mia was Elf.
Oh, that's right. Let's talk about Elf.
No, that's quick, but did Elf, and I thought Elf was going to be, and it was Casey again, and Bob Martin, and Chad. It was the first time I'd worked with Chad Beglin and Matt Sklar.
Yeah. Who, by the way, if you're listening, they wrote The Wedding Singer. So
I think that was their first Broadway show, and then they just keep going. Anyway, they're terrific. So I was hoping Elf would be one of these shows that came back every year, but womp womp. One of the producers of Elf, who worked for Warner Brothers, I think it was Warner Brothers, whoever the movie's producers were, had this passion project called Baby It's You that he had been nourishing in Los Angeles for a very long time. And during the rehearsals at Elf, he went, may I talk to you? And he was explaining to me this show and that it was coming in, and this character of Florence Greenberg. And again, I didn't know anybody, the directors or anyone. And I came in and didn't really audition. I had a meeting, and then I did a scene with one of the actors that had been cast in the show. And then the next thing I knew, we started rehearsal. And it was a whirlwind. And the first time I'd ever seen my face on a marquee. That was kind of thrilling and wow. And then the show opened and it got terrible reviews, but I got a Tony nomination.
Mm-hmm.
And, I made some dear friends, and it ran probably longer than it should because a lot of people really loved the catalog that it came from, the Shirelles and all those great tunes.
Yeah.
Then it closed. So bam, 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 bam. And after, I don't remember what happened after Baby It's You. Was that,
Well, let's talk about Baby It's You. How was it though, originating a role, like a lead role in a Broadway show?
that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, I was at a time in my life after Drowsy and all the other, I was ready to do that. I was ready to wear that hat and have that responsibility.
Yeah.
It was a complicated show to do.
Mm-hmm.
Just the energy of the creative teams and stuff. There was a lot of, no one particular voice was driving the train. So it was complicated. You can read that and do that whatever you would like. But it wasn't easy. It wasn't an easy show.
Yeah.
But after we opened and everyone left, I felt like we found our connective tissue and we made the show better and better and better. And the audiences were really enjoying it, singing along. And, it wasn't sustainable. It's a show business. And then we closed. And then I thought, oh, good. We closed right in time to go into another Elf. And then that was pulled.
Yeah.
So honestly, I can't remember what happened. Somebody tell me what happened after Elf. Was that?
I don't remember. Again, I know the things you did, but I can't remember the timeline of things.
Maybe that's when Prom started, because Prom started. I mean, I've been connected with that show for now 8 years.
Yeah.
We went to Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And then Casey got the Mean Girls schedule opened up. So we had to put Prom on hold and he had to go open Mean Girls. Yeah. And then after that happened, Prom finally got a theater. Yeah. I'm looking at my show. Bandstand.
Yes. Oh, Bandstand. It's a very important show to talk about. Let's talk about Bandstand. I actually had
posters on. It's like Bandstand's next.
Yes. So let's talk about Bandstand. I actually had Joe Carroll on the podcast a while back. He's wonderful. During the pandemic, I directed a bunch of virtual readings. So I was lucky enough to work with him on one of them. And he's just one of the nicest, talented, just like genuinely lovely. He's the one I told do Shakespeare in the park at Belvedere Castle. They want to do more Shakespeare. I'm like, what's going to stop you? Maybe you and him could do a Shakespearean scene there. You could play Juliet, he'll be Romeo. It'll be great.
Well, it'd be comedy if I did a Shakespeare scene.
Listen, they have comedic Shakespeare plays,
Thank goodness.
So yeah, Bandstand, I mean, it didn't last long on Broadway, but it has such a huge life after, and it's means a lot to so many people. So how did you get involved with Bandstand and what was your experience like with that?
Again, it's, when you are trying to get a show produced on Broadway, very rarely is it like, oh, here's a theater. There's such a journey with it. So I did a workshop, I don't know, 2 or 3 years before that. Mm-hmm. Then we went to Paper Mill Playhouse.
Yes.
So it had its premiere at Paper Mill Playhouse. Then we had to wait a while, and then we found out it was coming to Broadway, and I was asked to do it. Talk about a departure from the usual stuff I'd done, to play this mother in a World War II piece. I just loved it. I loved her character. I loved that I after coming from Baby It's You, I didn't have to drive the train. And it was such an important story that I don't think it's been told very often on Broadway. The journey of the veterans coming home from World War II or any war. I mean, we learned so much, and it spoke to so many people that had never seen themselves on stage before. It just meant so much to people. And I think that's why it still resonates. If I say bandstand, people go, oh, bandstand.
Yeah. I did see it because again, with merch, that I did work one performance of it, so I could see it. And I think that we sold mugs that went to some sort of veteran organization or something. Once
It's
we,
really,
yeah.
but there was one moment, and it's the first time I'd worked with Andy Blankenbuehler, who's just, what a visionary he is. So smart, kind, but there's his choreography and his directing are kind of seamless. And there was just some of the emotional, is that me? Sorry. Some of the emotional way he was able to choreograph an experience or a moment I never witnessed on stage. Like, I don't know if you remember when the guys were pushing Corey playing on the piano and it looked like the Iwo Jima statue. It was breathtaking, that moment.
I remember that moment, but I do remember other aspects of kind of like the memory of him fighting and the different types of dancing with like somebody half on the floor with the leg kicking up and it being like a blue haze. And
yes, a lot of, feelings that were choreographed.
Yeah.
A lot of nightmares that were choreographed. A lot of love was choreographed through dance. It was really amazing. And I didn't have to dance a step.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, aside from the prom, like moving forward, do you see yourself ever dancing in a show again?
I'm of an age. I don't know if I can anymore. Like, I remember Casey said, go down on, I said, I can't get up anymore. My knees, I'm going into my 14th Broadway show. Yeah. My body's like, I'd rather can you just sing now? Or how about just be funny? Or I don't know, sing a song that makes you cry or something. Yeah. I like movement. Like, it was, once I learned the hip hop dance for the prom, it was really fun to do it. And I always felt like it was me and Michael Potts downstage right. And I always felt like the audience was looking at us going, oh, bless those old people. Can they do it? Let's watch them. Oh, okay. You be careful. Don't hurt yourself. I'm like, I'm doing hip hop.
We're going to hip hop into the next topic. So how did the prom come into your life? Was Dee Dee written for it? I can't remember specifically how that. Yeah. Yeah.
After Elf, I looked at Matt and Chad. I went, can we do something again? And I could already tell something was, he said, yeah, they had already been working on it. They'd already been marinating on, they had gotten this idea from Jack Vertel about the story about the girl who was trying to go to the prom with her girlfriend, the PTA or somebody canceled it, blah, blah, blah. And Jack Vertel said this would be a great musical, and the rest is history. But I remember Matt and Chad not being very open about it, but saying, So within, I don't know, a year, Casey said, can you come to my studio and read the very first draft of this show? And from that day, it was me, Brooks, Chris, and Angie sitting around a table. And they named the character Angie, and Dee Dee was written for my DNA. And then it took a while, and then we found out we were going to Atlanta, and it just kept growing and growing and growing. And then I told you Mean Girls, and then bam, it opened in 2000 something. 18? I don't remember.
I don't remember either. I have a friend who was like one of the investors of the show, and for months she's like, you have to see the prom, you have to see it. So I finally saw it, and I was so enraged at what happened at the end of the first act that I refused to applaud. I was so mad. I literally just sat there with my arms crossed, and like one of my best friends and I saw the show together, and I'm like, I refuse to applaud. I am so mad. But it was just the most fun and joyous show. And I want to talk to you about the Ladies Improving, because you're a very unique like vocalist, because your end note, you would think that there would be a breath somewhere, but you're Beth Leavel and that doesn't happen. So can you explain to the normal humans how you can sustain that very long?
I don't know. I just know I take like a double breath, and I'm wish I was more of a technician that I could explain how I can hold it that long. But then after a while, it became, people started timing it. So that's like, and the last show, the orchestra, the horns couldn't hold it as long as I could. So I just did like all by myself. I was like, yeah.
And then there was a standing ovation, and there's video of it online. And you're welcome for those listening who want to watch Beth Leavel be amazing in the prom and doing the Ladies Improving.
That was really cool.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I think that was like the night before the Tony Awards or something, and that standing ovation and that whole moment, I just completely broke. I just cried. It was a wow moment. I felt.
Yeah.
I just cried. So,
how did
thank you for the people that were there that night.
I was not, but for those who were, how do you guys, or did you feel knowing that there is going to be a movie made of the prom, and a lot of people's reaction to who was cast in the movie, as opposed to a lot of naysayers being like, you should have done the Broadway cast?
Yeah, but the Broadway cast wouldn't have sold. People wouldn't have watched. I mean, it's Meryl Streep, for heaven's sakes.
Yeah.
What it was interesting, it's such a unique night. We kind of had a reopening of Prom 6 months later, where Ryan Murphy was there, and we knew he was going to make an announcement, but I don't think the ensemble knew. But you know, I've been around the block. I just knew. And we had, like months before, Meryl and Nicole, we heard they were in the audience. I'm like, oh, okay, wait a minute. So Ryan Murphy comes on stage and he announces that he has bought the rights for Netflix and will be making it a movie. And I was just hoping that the kids didn't realize that that doesn't mean we're all going to be in a movie, just so you'll know. And then we went to a big party afterwards, and then eventually it was announced who was playing the roles and stuff. It was truthfully, I would have loved to have done it. But again, the prom had such an amazing message. And if I had done it, it wouldn't have received the attention and the viewings it did because Meryl did it. So if I'm going to give birth to a child, I can't really think of a better person to take care of it than Meryl Streep.
Yeah. I mean, it's fine because you eventually got to play one of the children that she birthed in a musical.
There you go.
So
how about that for
it was a nice trade-off. I had to say that I really did enjoy the Prom movie, and I understood both aspects of everybody's, like, it should be the Broadway cast. And I have a very large entertainment knowledge base, and I know how the industry works. So I was like fully aware of like why they didn't cast who they did cast and all of that stuff. And I watched the movie. I thought everybody did a wonderful job in it. So did you watch the movie at all, or were you just like, I'm good now? That's fine. You don't have to.
No, we watched Act 1, the four of us, and just giggled, and I'll watch it again. You know, it's fascinating to watch a move I choreographed and watch Meryl do it. Like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say though, like sometimes for me, sometimes when you're watching Meryl Streep, you're like, I'm watching Meryl Streep doing this part. But for me with the Prom, you kind of forgot you were watching Meryl Streep, which was kind of nice. And I think maybe that's just like a testament to how great the part is, which, you know, thanks to you is a thing.
It's a great part. She's a fabulous part.
Yeah.
I hope now that the rights are released, it's like, yes, people can see it more.
I hope so. I mean, it's a very important piece of theater too. And like, you know, like I told you, I had a very strong reaction to what happened in the show when I first saw it. And I my 9 lives with jobs, I used to work in the hotel industry as a concierge, and I would be very good at picking out shows for people. So I would always have to make sure people are comfortable with that topic before I recommended the prom to them. And I would tell people, like, it is just a joyous show with such an important message, and it's something that does need to be seen. So, I mean, even though it didn't last as long as people would have hoped on Broadway, it does have this long-lasting thing on film.
Again, and it's like Drowsy. It just keeps getting more popular and more exposed, and more people know a lot about the prom.
Yeah.
And we'll continue that. I mean, if there's one piece of theater art that I have done that changed lives, it's that.
Yeah.
I mean, it really changed people's lives. So whenever anyone says to me, "Oh, you just do musical comedies," it's like,
Yeah. I
We
mean,
changed.
yeah, even though, I was talking to somebody about this the other day in regards to a show that I don't want to name on the podcast, but, I was saying it's listed as a musical theater comedy, but even with musical theater comedy, you do have to have these real dramatic moments in it to humanize the show. And that's what the prom has as well. And that's so great. And that's what makes good musical theater comedy.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
My little theater nerdness coming out,
Oh, I love theater nerdness.
Thank you.
I always said, like, we're all man in chairs in some way, shape, or form.
We really are.
I love theater so much. I totally am a man in chair. Totes.
When we would sit in the Mamma Mia merch, I can speak English, guys. The merch office, we would talk about like who we would cast in like a movie version of something, and we would always talk about if the Drowsy Chaperone was going to be a movie, who we would cast. I think we said like Anne Hathaway, James Marsden, and I don't remember who we said as man in chair.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, I think I said Shirley MacLaine as Beatrice Stockwell, and somebody else said, "Oh, she's too old. It has to be like Catherine Zeta-Jones." And I argued with them, and I said, "I don't agree with you."
Yeah, I don't know if Catherine Zeta is she funny without being funny?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. We'll ask her.
Yeah, we'll get Catherine Zeta-Jones on the phone, you guys.
People call Catherine and ask her would she like to do the film version.
Hello. How did crap, what is it called? The Devil Wears Prada. Now that we're talking about how you flipped roles with Meryl Streep, NBD. Right. How did that come into your life?
This is fascinating. Ready? No.
Yeah, no, I'm ready.
I'm doing the prom. And I didn't even know the Devil Wears Prada was out there. I should be fired.
I'm shaking my head no for those who can't see the face I just made.
Yeah. And the director had been hired. I knew then I started, Kevin McCullum, who is the lead producer of the Devil Wears Prada, and Elton John wrote the music, had hired Anna Shapiro as the director. She was the artistic director of Steppenwolf, won a Tony Award for August Osage County, and was jumping into the musical land with the Devil Wears Prada. So she decided to come with Shana Taub. She came down to New York. She lives in Chicago. She came down to New York and decided in the summer to see every Broadway musical there was to man. So she was just going to go and immerse herself in all the things that were musicals. Shana had seen the prom once or twice and said, "Anna, you have to come and see the prom." And Anna went, "No, it sounds like High School Musical," which is one of the reasons I think we closed a little early, because when the tourists came in, the prom didn't like, what is that? What is that about? Which is why you had to probably over-explain it when you were doing your 9th job as a concierge.
Yes.
People thought it was about like a high school something and just didn't really understand. Anyway, blah, blah. She talked Anna into coming to see the prom. And rumor has it, and I'm saying it's true because I think that halfway through it, after I did It's Not About Me, Anna turned to Shana and went, "I found her." So the next week, they called my agent and we set up a meeting, and I met Anna at Open Jar Studio, where they had already started doing choreography workshops. And we talked for almost an hour and a half, just chatted about everything. She gave me a piece of music that I looked at, and 2 days later, I came back and sang it with the producers there. And I have a feeling I was being recorded, and it was sent to Elton and his husband, David, who's one of the lead producers as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest is history.
Yeah.
Then we had to wait because then the plague hit and everything was put on hold.
Mm-hmm.
So I really have been associated with Prada for almost 3 years now, maybe even longer, because everything stopped, as you well know.
Yeah.
And we did a workshop once, last Christmas before last, maybe sometime in the holiday season. And it's when the coronavirus was going around, and a lot of people got sick, and we weren't able to do the performances. So everything just stopped. And then we waited again another 8 months and did a choreography workshop. And then we did another workshop right before we went to Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And then we spent all summer in Chicago, learned a great deal about the show. But part of that process in Chicago was emergency put-ins because of COVID.
Yeah.
So the time usually spent on rewrites, lighting, changing the choreography, changing the structure or whatever was taken away doing emergency put-ins to make sure that everyone was safe and knew their lines. And man, we had some superstars. As swings, as we all know now, swings and understudies are just a breed of brilliance that I can't even begin to thank enough.
Yeah.
And poor Taylor Iman Jones, who was so amazing in the show. First week of preview, she came down with COVID and missed 11 performances.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was just, I felt like we were kind of cheated of our experience, as a lot of people have been with this COVID going around. So now we're just waiting. In spite of that, and in spite of just apparently horrible reviews, it was such a financial success, and the audience went, particularly after, we ran like 36 shows, particularly toward the end when we were really getting in our groove with it.
Yeah.
They made a great deal of money. There's a real desire to see this musical version of Devil Wears Prada.
Yeah.
So I'm sure everyone's just kind of going back to a workshop of figuring out how we can make it even better.
Yeah.
And everyone wants to do that, which is really cool. So I'm anxious to see what happens next.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know. I mean, that's theater. Don't know. But once we figure it out and land in a theater, it's just, people are really going to want to see it.
Yeah. I do need to ask though, because The Devil Wears Prada, the movie is based on a book. So does the musical have movie and book elements, or is it does?
Okay. Lauren Weisberger was there.
Yeah.
Who wrote the novel. She was there opening night. She was hung out a lot, and she was so happy with everything. It's like, that's unbelievable. She writes this book.
Yeah.
And it is, I don't know, there's one, if it's not Mamma Mia, I can say The Devil Wears Prada, and everybody knows The Devil Wears Prada.
Yeah.
So it takes the best of her book, which is also in the movie, which is also, we've kind of grafted everything together and made it a musical.
Yeah.
Because, Miranda has to sing there. And it's also, all the creatives are women. So
Yeah.
they're a completely different point of view. So there's been a lot of adjustments because the world is different now than it was when she wrote it or when the movie was out.
Yeah. I do find it very annoying that some people were criticizing the color of Miranda's hair for the show. And I was like, guys, Meryl Streep decided to be to have gray hair in the movie. That was her Miranda. It does not have to be the same. Like, that's what drives me nuts with some people, is that like it doesn't, and nothing, and it's a musical adaptation, just because something, I saw Almost Famous last night, and I have a friend who's in the show, and I spoke to him because Almost Famous is one of my all-time favorite movies, and my friend is fully aware of that, and he's like, I know you're going to have some thoughts. I don't want to spoil anything because it's still in previews, but I did mention to him an aspect of the show that it's not a criticism. It's just something that I thought was an interesting story choice that they did. And he was saying, there's been many versions and you just can't translate something like that onto the stage, which is understandable. So once he said that, I was like, okay, now I get why they did that. I mean, I feel like they could have done it, but that's just me being an Almost Famous, diehard fan. So.
And believe me, going back to Prada, the wig choice color was one of the most important decisions because of that very thing that you're saying. And I was opposed to imitating Meryl. I mean, that's her choice. Let her live that. And she looked fabulous. But my Miranda had to do something else.
Yeah. And I think, you don't see a fabulous redhead nowadays, and Miranda being a redhead is a great choice.
I agree. And I was the only redhead. So you always see Miranda when she was on stage, in addition to the fact that she's, this power goddess bitch. That's the name of my memoirs.
Power Goddess
Life in Theater, Power Goddess Bitch.
You know what? I can't wait to read that memoir. It's coming out when? I don't know. We'll find out.
I take jot notes every day. Still got a lot more to do.
I want to talk about, so you did and I only know this because I have Spectrum and I haven't watched it yet, but during the pandemic, you did that Spectrum show Bite with like every other
Broadway couple.
Cool. Where you guys somehow got infected with something and you worked with your husband, or sorry, fiance, or we could say husband.
Right here. A lot of the show was done right here. It was in the height of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So we didn't come in contact with one single person. Yeah. Everything was delivered to the door, and including camera equipment, sound stuff. Yeah. And this sounds like I don't have the ability to do it, but I let Adam do the technical stuff because it's not really in my wheelhouse. And we spend hours on the phone or on the Zoom with tutorials of how to work a camera and the sound and the mics and lights, and things would just get delivered every day, bags of clothes. So we would do costume fittings in Zoom. They would send chairs. Our living room is back there. It was turned upside down. Literally, we turned our sofa on the wall and we made it into something that looked like a dining room, so they sent us a table and new chairs. And it was the most interesting thing we've ever done. And it was all right. There was a camera placed. I'm touching the back of my computer. So it looked like we were on the computer where they were actually filming everything. And all of the special effects, it's a zombie kind of movie, those of you who don't know.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting because right before that, I did a Walking Dead 6. I'm like, what is this zombie world I'm living in? It was really fun.
Yeah.
But we had to meet a director of photography outside to stay socially distanced. And there was some fancy camera, and we just stood there turning our head 90 degrees one way, 90 degrees, looking all the way up, looking all the way down. And he just took pictures so he could put the special effects in when we turned into zombies. I had to take, Adam gets the first bite. His character was at a Trader Joe's and the bag boy bit him. And it was like, what? So we're talking, Audra McDonald's our doctor. We're talking to her via Zoom. I took one of my lipstick eye pencils and I'm doing a circle of red dots on my forearm, which I did to him. And that was their template for creating this special effect zombie bite that eventually took over his body. And then he bites me, and there's fake blood, all CG'd. Oh, if you can watch it, you really should watch it because it is amazing. And to know, everyone was in theaters, Rob McClure and Audra and Will and Adam and I I can't remember who else, sorry.
I think Philippa So is in it.
Oh, yes. And we all turn into zombies. It's awesome.
Yeah.
With special effects. It's magical to me. And it was really interesting with a little bit of sense of humor in there, little wink. Also, if you're really bored, October 30th, that's soon, right?
Yes.
My Hallmark movie comes out.
Yes.
It's not mine. I'm in a Hallmark movie.
You are, I watched the teaser. You were in it with Ian Harding from Pretty Little Liars.
It's called The Ghost of Christmas Always. Yes. And I play an aging pop star who's lost my Christmas spirit, but I get to sing. They wrote like an original song that I perform at the Christmas party. And I haven't seen it because again, it's like listening to myself on, it's like, I don't know if I can watch it, but I'm going to try to watch it because it was a lot of fun.
I just know that Carl from Family Matters is in it. The father. Really? Yeah, I think he's the ghost with the ascot you mentioned.
Oh, yes. He was in Die Hard with Bruce Willis. He was I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
Was the policeman.
Yeah. He played a policeman on Family Matters. If I'm correct with that. I think I am.
Well, we'll watch it and find out.
Yes. October 30th, Hallmark Movie Channel. They're just like Christmas, everything. A lot of Broadway people have been doing Christmas movies too.
Great.
Yeah. Hallmark.
Yes, I thank you, Hallmark, and producers who knew that our industry was suffering a bit with COVID, and to throw us a nice job here and there. Thank you very much.
How did you and Adam do during the pandemic? Did you do any virtual events? I know that you did the prom reunion on oh my God, Seth Rudacki's what was it called?
Can't help you.
Stars in the House.
Oh yeah. We did that. I did a lot of that. A lot of Zooms, a lot of singing here on Zooms, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
I did a couple of podcasts, one like an audiobook podcast kind of thing. And teaching. I was coaching a lot, which makes me very happy.
Yeah.
I love doing that. And, just one day at a time. We moved from the city, moved up to, upstate, just because save money.
Yeah. And you love it up there now, and that's what's important.
Love it. Yeah. So it's, that's one of the reasons, that I'm so drawn to this lifestyle. Mm-hmm. The bad news is you just never know what's happening the next day. And the good news is you just never know what's happening the next day. One day you're thinking, I have to leave this industry, and you get a call and they ask you to do Beatrice Stockwell in the Drowsy Chaperone.
Yeah.
You just never know what's going to happen. So I like to live with that. Even during the pandemic, it's like, you just never know what's going to happen. And then Devil Wears Prada happened. And then, I'm never bored. That's not true. Most of the time I'm not bored. And I was just saying, I look forward. I'm available for what's next. I can't wait to tell the next story. I can't wait to sing a song and be in a story that changes people's lives or brings them joy or entertainment or something touches them.
Yeah. Do you have, you don't have, if you do, you don't have to announce it, but do you have anything lined up coming up?
Besides Prada, little things.
Okay.
I'm back kind of on my concert circus. I was in circus. Circuit. I was in San Francisco 2 weeks ago, did 2 shows. I was up in Saratoga.
Mm-hmm. Have a big benefit coming up in, I don't want to say December, but maybe it's Jamie Oliver's hosting it. No, okay, I'm wrong.
No, I'm sure I do. That's in December. I can only deal with 1 month at a time. I did a benefit last night for the National Dance Institute, which is fantastic. Where we rehearse bandstand, so it was kind of like homecoming week.
That's so nice.
I know. Doing a one for Brad Oscar, November 4th, but I can't tell you what it's for. But it's for a charity. We're raising money. It's like that's one thing I can do. I can go and sing Stumble or Ladies Improving and raise money for things that are important.
There you go. Do you have any roles that you've played that you want to continue? Because you've done Gypsy, you've done Dolly. Are those roles that you want to keep playing again and again, or?
I did did Gypsy at the Muni.
Yes.
With Adam as my Herbie, and Rob Ruggiero as my director. That was kind of a perfect.
Mm-hmm.
That really I felt was successful, and I was proud of myself because I was so terrified to do that. It's like the King Lear of musical comedy. I was proud of myself for letting go of my fear and jumping into that and feeling like I did a good job. I'd like to do that one more time.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the things I want to do are yet to be written. I
Yeah.
find that the most satisfying,
Mm-hmm.
if that's possible.
Yeah. So, because I do ask about dream roles, so I'm assuming that it just hasn't been written yet.
Yeah, my dream roles, I'm waiting for the next Dee Dee or Beatrice or June or Miranda or whatever. I mean, I'm really lucky to have had those moments to originate roles that still live on mostly in the ether and will be around for a long time. And kids come up and go, "Oh my gosh, I played your part in high school." And it's like, oh my gosh. I remember doing that in college once I had, embraced my inner man and chair theater geek, and with, the albums I was listening to, and the fact that I'm on an original album, which is not an album anymore, and that someone somewhere in the world is listening and learning that role from that CD, or like, wow, I did that. I mean, I wore that Annie album out. I wore the Jesus Christ Superstar out. I just would listen over and over and over and over and over again. And that I now am doing that for someone else. That's really cool.
Yeah. What are your top going theater experiences that you've had? I mean, whether or not something you've seen or something that you've been a part of.
Oh, well, again, the Prom is kind of rates up there right at the top. Yeah. And because the Drowsy Chaperone was so new for me as, quote unquote, Beth Leavel, by the time I got to Prom, I was a little more comfortable in my, oh, it's okay, I can own this. I can drive this part of the train. So the Prom was unbelievable. And I think Miranda is going to be that once we start back into that again. There's so many shows that totally changed my life. I remember Dreamgirls, Chorus Line. I mean, the moments I had when I was watching The Music Man with my parents and the movie theater, I now experience when I go to the theater. Color Purple. Mm-hmm. Oh boy, The Inheritance. There's just so many, I don't know. Again, theater changes lives.
Yeah. I know that you did that, I can't remember the name of it, about gay marriage.
Standing on Ceremony off Broadway.
Yeah. Would you want to do more plays? And if you did plays, would you want to do more dramatic or more comedic stuff?
I think I love ones that you were talking about, that you can do both. You can be comedic and also have this quote unquote dramatic arc to your story. It just makes it more interesting. And I love being funny. I love women that are funny, but to not after those of you who do musicals will completely understand what I'm saying. Particularly if you're doing 8 shows a week, to not have to wake up at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock going, is it there? Can I sing today? Can I belt that C? Not have to worry about that, just to do a play, not just a play, but where you don't have to worry about your voice if there's allergies or a cold or whatever. That would be great.
I will say that during the pandemic, like I said, when we were doing these virtual readings, there was one play we were talking about in particular. And if we got the rights to it, we were going to try and ask you to do it. And that was Little Dog Laughed by Douglas Carter Bean.
Yes.
That would be just the perfect role for you. So just throwing that out there, if anybody's listening, or if you want to put that into the world yourself, Beth, to be like, I need to play this part of the agent. I even have, I saw it when it was on Broadway, and there's a quote that's on a magnet, and it's, "As a favor, butch it up, Mary." So that's on my refrigerator.
That's fabulous.
It's so good. Yeah. So I do inside the actor studio questions as a part of the podcast. Are you ready
Bring it.
for them? Okay. So let's start off with, what is your favorite word?
Whew. It's like I have a favorite word that means something and a favorite word that's just fun to say.
That's fine.
But I don't know the difference right now. Let me think about it. Go to the next one.
Okay. What is your least favorite word?
Oh, well, I can't say it on your
Yes, you
podcast.
can.
No, I'm not a fan of the C word.
Okay, that's fine. See you next Tuesday.
Oh, right. That's an acronym for that. One of my favorite words is antiquated, because it's one of the first words I learned when I was young that actually had more than one syllable and I knew what it meant. So, at dinner with my parents, it's like, oh, that bread is so antiquated. I would use it every minute. It was kind of fun to say. Yeah, I'm still thinking about that.
Okay.
I'm still marinating on that. Marinating is one of my favorite words. I'm still thinking about that.
You can marinate all you want. What turns you on?
A sense of humor.
What turns you off?
A lack of a sense of humor.
We all need a sense of humor, you guys.
Oh, particularly now. I think it's a sense of humor is so sexy, and kindness.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, come on. Hold the door open for someone. Say thank you. Just do it.
Yes. Thank you. Why are we the same? Okay. Which I'm not mad about at all. Just I'm the same as Beth Leavel and BD. Where am I? What is your favorite curse word?
Fuck.
Yeah. So
it fills your mouth with, and I say it all the time without even, I really have to edit myself if I go back home. Because I've been in New York for 30 years. I mean, everybody says fuck up here. It's not really even a cuss word anymore. Can you pass me the fucking Diet Coke? That's not like, I don't think that Diet Coke's fucking. It just feels like, oh, fuck. Yeah, fuck that.
I sometimes get out of bed and say, oh, fuck. And that's just because of age and getting.
Yeah, it's like, oh, fuck. That doesn't fit. Fuck.
Yeah. Or you'd say, well, fuck. Yeah, I get it.
Oh, fuck. That's awesome.
Yes. Let's just say fuck every other word now. What's your favorite? No, I'm just joking. Okay.
Word. Well, fuck you. Fuck. That's amazing. Fuck.
Yes. Yes. Okay. What sound or noise do you love?
Laughter, when it's like true, deep, someone finding something really funny. And my cat, when I can make his motor run, like, I love that.
What sound or noise do you hate?
People being angry and yelling at each other. Sirens. Yeah, people yelling, I hate that noise.
Yeah. What profession other than yours would you like to attempt?
For a hot minute, I would have loved to have been an interior decorator, but it would all have had to been my taste, which is not good. I still do it. I'm helping my best friend who lives not too far from me. We're redoing her living room. Yeah. And I go over there and we're redoing. I'm really good at taking what you have and changing it around. It brings such joy. So I'm thinking I would like to do that, but I'm not skilled enough to get paid for it. But so I do it as a hobby.
Maybe you can just because nowadays they have somebody who does that for people's dressing rooms.
True.
So, Beth Leavel interiors for
that means doing math, like person understands curtains, and that I don't do. Or the geometry with this fit here. Well, how do you measure those blinds? I can't do that, but I can say, oh my gosh, if you put that yellow pillow next to that red one on that thing, they're like, oh my gosh. Or why don't we put that chair here and move that? That's what brings me great joy.
Maybe like Beth Leavel will help kind of with interiors.
I'll help to the best of my ability. There's a term for that. It's not restaging. There's a term. You go in and you take what you have and just change it up a little bit.
Yeah. The Beth Leavel way. There you go.
Yeah. We're going to level it out.
Gotcha. What profession would you not like to do?
I would not like to be a doctor. I would be so terrified of the responsibility of doing something wrong. I would also never want to be a production stage manager. They are so amazing and responsible for everything that I would be terrible at it and intimidated. Actually, we were watching our stage manager, PSM, for the Devil Wear Prada was Holly Coombs. And she's just like, I mean, not human. She's so good. And during some tech, we're all sitting around on stage and we started playing games. I went, all right, which would you rather do right now? Would you like to have a scalpel and do surgery on someone without really knowing, or Holly's job? And we all went, surgery.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just give it a shot, let's do surgery, because none of us would want the responsibility and the skill set that I do not have. So
did you marinate on your other word yet, or
no, because then I started thinking about interior decorating. I mean, I love the word grace. I mean, when you say grace or someone says grace to you, I feel that word.
Mm-hmm.
When someone says a beautiful word like that, full of grace,
yeah.
Gratitude. And this sounds really kumbaya-ish, but words that make you, it calms you, and lifts your heart a little bit.
Yeah.
I swear, if I think of another one, I'm going to text you.
Please, you can take my phone number and I can tell people like I'm best friends with Beth Leavel now. She has my phone number. And okay, so last question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Places.
And then James Lipton would say, here are your students. Oh, man, that was great. So, we're coming towards the end of the podcast. So I try to remember to ask this of everyone. Why do you think theater is so important?
I think it connects us as human beings. I think it's the universal thread that connects humanity when we allow it. Mm-hmm. Plus, we sit in a place, it's like, cavemen used to sit around a campfire and tell stories. It's how we connect to each other. It's also how we communicate, how we entertain, how we learn, how we grow, how we find joy, how we sing show tunes, how something makes us angry that maybe we have to change because now we have an awareness. Mm-hmm. So I think life without art, without theater, would be so boring. Plus, as storytellers, in any way, shape, or form that we are storytellers as artists, we're here to do that for some reason. Like when you were asking me, how did I become? It's like, I don't know. I think some way, shape, or form, I was meant to be a storyteller. Mm-hmm. And I feel gratitude, and I feel like I had no choice that I still don't understand. But I'm still here. And so that's why, whatever your question was, and I went on my monologue, that's why it's important.
Yeah. Well, Beth, I just want to thank you again so much for coming onto the podcast. Again, I kind of can't believe you said yes to doing it. And I think you're amazing. And I adore you. And just thank you so much. And for all of your wonderful insight that you've given. Is there anything that you want to ask me? Is there anything that you want to tell the listeners out there, the 5 of them who listen? I joke. I always say it's like 5 people who listen. It could be more.
No, just hang in there. Particularly if you're a storyteller, mm-hmm. Our business is slowly healing and coming back. Just still try to be safe. Be patient. It's been soul stealing a lot of times. I know a lot of people have had to leave the business. I'm sending a virtual hug to everybody. And again, if you can embrace kindness, let's just do it. let's help fill the world with more kindness, because we need it right now.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to hug you in person when I see you.
Oh my God, please.
Oh my God. I miss hugs,
I'm a hugger. I will full on hug you and I'll cry while doing it, being like, I'm hugging Beth Leavel.
Stop it. No, it's just like hugging is good. It's healing.
We'll hug and then we'll do like a slapstick move afterwards.
Right. I'm gonna reverse and give multiple choices for that.
Oh, please. You'll be like, do a time step and then I'll do it and then I'll fall over, because like I said, I'm super great with choreographed dancing.
I may ask you to do a time step so I can visually live with that and really when
I know it's like a jump and then a thing. It's not, I'm not a dancer.
It's okay. There's people who are dancers.
Yeah.
They'll do it for us and we can watch them and enjoy it.
My friend has a website where she has dancer crossed out and wrote mover, or I think on her resume or something.
So. I did that. I erased it because I thought when I moved from North Carolina, I was a dancer. Oh my God. Yeah. And then the one last story, one of my first auditions before I had my agent, I went in when I was filling out my circling the backstage, what ones I was going to go to. It was an open call for cats before it. And it's like, oh, I'm a dancer. So I got in my leg warmers and stuff. And there was so many people sitting at the Winter Garden, hundreds and hundreds of people.
Yeah.
And I believe Jillian Lynn would take them on stage and teach them this combination. And I was like number 242 or something. And I started to watch what these dancers were having to do. And I don't know, an hour and a half later, they called my group of 12 people, and everybody got up and they went to the stage, and I turned around and I walked out the front door. Okay. And then I went home and deleted dancer and put moves well or something like that, which was much more truthful. I'm like, girl, you are not a dancer.
Yeah. But luckily you've been able to work with people who have been able to work with your movement strengths.
True. I forgot. We forgot Showboat. I did Showboat.
Oh, that's right. I saw Showboat too, and I grew up watching that movie.
Oh, wow. Right. So I had just given birth to my second son.
Yeah.
So that's what I remember about Showboat. My boobs were like ginormous. I'm like, these are not my boobs. These will be going away soon.
And that was also at the Gershwin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was it raked? Because I know Wicked has the rake stage. So was it always raked? No.
Because remember that huge boat that came on.
I was young.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't remember it being raked at all. If it was, it didn't really affect me.
I did see the Philharmonic Showboat. So my friend works at the Phil, and at the time when he lived in New York, and I love Norm Lewis, I always say he's one of the 3 people I want to sing me to bed at night. So it was mostly to see him sing Old Man River. And again, I just also really love Showboat. So yeah, that's another great show too. So I think Julian something was in it. He was in Downton Abbey. So that was fun for me personally.
Awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, anything else?
That's it. I think you've heard not every last, but those are the highlights.
Yeah, any on the highlights you want to mention really quickly? No, we're good.
We're good. I did a concept album last week. It's called Regretting Almost Everything. That's going to have a big release this winter. It's a 2-hander starring myself and Jeff Blumenkrantz, written by Laura and Danny Usetti. Laura Tesla. It's really good.
Well, let us know when it comes out, and
it's still TBD.
Yeah, put it out there in the world, and all is good. So I'm going to stop recording. You can stay on the Zoom, but Beth, again, thank you so much for coming on, and everyone, thank you for listening.
For asking me.